my name is Maya Geis. I'm the Marketing Director at BRC Imagination Arts, and we are so happy to be here today to present a case study on our work for SCAD, the Savannah College of Art and Design. We created SCAD Story, so we'll be talking about that today. I'm here with Matt Solari and Bernard Semerdjian, two exceptional creatives from our team. Just briefly, BRC Imagination Arts, we're an experience, design, and production company. We do everything from concept to the production of huge worlds, everything from exhibitions to brand homes to world expos. So without further ado, I'm happy to introduce Matt and Bernard. Can you guys please introduce yourselves and explain your role not only at BRC, but on this project specifically?
Hi, everyone. I'm Matt Solari. I'm a creative director at BRC Imagination Arts, and I served as creative director on SCAD Story. Basically, my role on the project from beginning to end was working with the team and the client to dream up the idea for the experience, to craft the story and what's going to happen to you when you go through it, and to make sure as we go through the process that every choice we make adheres to that first spark of inspiration we had at the very beginning, so it all comes together at the very end.
Hi, I'm Bernard Semerdjian, BRC Imagination Arts art director, experience designer, and for the role I had for SCAD was I was the art director and responsible for the overall look and feel and the brand, like the visual identity.
Yeah, great. And for those who aren't familiar, can you tell us a little bit about SCAD?
Yeah, SCAD, the Savannah College of Art and Design, was, it's, as the name says, it's a College of Art and Design in Savannah. It was founded in 1978 by a woman named Paula Wallace, who was a elementary school teacher in Atlanta at the time. And she wanted to start a school for creativity, art and design. And the university approached BRC with the idea of, we wanted to do something to celebrate our 40th anniversary. And that's kind of how BRC and SCAD sort of came together.
At the Savannah College of Art and Design, this first of its kind immersive experience takes guests on an unexpected journey through 4 decades of SCAD history. This is SCAD Story. How do you create wonder in a visitor? That's what SCAD Story does. It's an invitation as much as it is an experience. It's a showcase of what we teach here.
The story of SCAD begins with a dream and a dare. So, Mom, Dad...
Savannah? An art school?
A dream. It didn't take long for us to find the perfect building for our new college. We flung open the doors and started with a disaster in the corner.
Careers in the arts?
Yes, careers, no starving artists.
I want people to walk through and to feel prouder about what they've done with their lives, more hope about what they can do next. That's what the human story is all about.
I'm going to work at Nickelodeon,
Verizon, Target, Apple,
Coca-Cola,
eBay,
Walt Disney Imagineering.
I would have come here if I would have known about it.
It's magical.
Part of me was like, dang, I wish I went to SCAD.
Finding your future, finding your destiny, and to make a living doing it, like that's magic.
So what was the initial prompt or challenge presented by SCAD? I mean, you just touched on it briefly, but can you tell us a little bit more around sort of what their initial goals were or objectives, or sort of how they were thinking about the project when they first came to BRC?
Yeah, you know, at approaching their 40th year, they wanted to do a couple of things. First, they wanted to be able to tell people about their story. Their goal really was to convey that sense of like this impossible dream to prospective students and their families, and also to current and prospective faculty. And so their goal really was to, if you were thinking about going to SCAD, that after going through this experience, that you would come out feeling like SCAD was your school of choice, either as a student or as a teacher, and that it would instill a sense of pride and inspiration in you after you came out of the experience. Originally, what they wanted to do was they were thinking about maybe doing a museum. But once we started talking, you know, SCAD has so many different interesting disciplines that they teach there, including one of them being themed entertainment design. So we started talking, he says, why don't we do something that really incorporates the disciplines that you all teach here and stitch them together into an experience as opposed to a museum, because they have a really fantastic museum on campus, actually several of them. So we thought, why don't we create a showcase for what you all do here at SCAD and do something that is unique, that is the first of its kind at any institute for higher learning in the world, as far as we know. And of course, because they are SCAD and they're dare takers, they said yes. So that's the objective behind it, and that's how we sort of landed on the idea of doing an experience as opposed to a traditional exhibit.
And I know that a large part of this, the story centers on Paula Wallace, who founded the company. Can you tell us a little bit about the research that went into this as you were starting to piece the concept and the larger story together?
The founder, Paula Wallace, had written her memoir about the founding of SCAD, called The Bee and the Acorn. And that was everything we really needed to know about her story. So we really immersed ourselves in that and had some conversations with her and people who know her, and really started to understand what that journey was, which was just absolutely amazing. And that was our narrative research. But SCAD itself is such a fascinating school of art and design, and doing the research on that was also pretty fascinating. Want to talk about that, Bernard?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, taking a tour of the campus, if you're able to, at any point you're in town, like I highly recommend doing it. It's the Hogwarts of art design schools. And the most consistent theme that we had when we were researching and it's just exploring the campus and just, you know, its roots is, there's an unexpected thing at every turn. Wherever you are, whatever, even in the journey, the story, you know, those kind of ran parallel with each other. So visually, you know, they're very unique. They stand out. And it's not just, they don't have outrageous looking stuff just for the sake of it. There's art and purpose behind it. There's always this kind of charm to it, which we also wanted to capture. And so that bringing the unexpectedness and also the very exaggerated and artistic expressions and interpretations of certain parts of that story was our key theme to make sure we kind of stayed course while designing. It was really exciting to see.
Yeah, and every space that they have, they design their spaces in such a way that when you're in them, they're designed to make you notice them, to spark curiosity and creativity, so that it kind of resets your brain when you walk into these spaces. You know, they're not utilitarian educational spaces at all. You know, they're fun, they're whimsical, they're magical at times, and they really, everything at SCAD is laser focused on the student experience and fostering that creativity and sense of boundless opportunity while you're there. So we absorbed all of that while we were there and squeezed all that into this little space that we call SCAD Story.
Now it's come up a little bit, but can you actually then walk us through the SCAD experience? We don't want to ruin the surprise for anyone that hasn't been yet, but can you tell us give us sort of an overview of what the experience is like for guests that are entering the space?
You walk into this sort of small room with lots of objects on shelves, and it looks like a cabinet of curiosities, and a big old fireplace, and a TV screen above it. And the idea is, people are going to go in this thing and think, okay, we're gonna get a orientation video about SCAD, and it does start off that way.
Welcome to SCAD, the University for Creative Careers. We're glad you're here. As the most comprehensive nonprofit art and design university in the world, SCAD provides each student with individual attention in a positively oriented learning environment.
If they had taken a tour, like this type of room exists everywhere in SCAD, right? The room with the curios and the screens, like, oh, here comes another presentation room or something. That was the goal. So that's,
yes, totally meeting their expectations at a lower level, right? So that we had some place to go. So, and as we they start talking in the video about the founder, Paula Wallace. One of the students is sort of doodling her on a notepad, on a piece of sketch paper. And as they do, her doodle comes to life. And that is Paula becomes our narrator through this story. She takes us through her whole journey. And one of my favorite moments is, as she's getting ready to take us into her dream world, we do these little magical touches. These butterflies literally burst off of the television screen onto the walls around the fireplace. And then a little bee that's been following her around also comes out of the screen and around the wall and starts to, it touches a clock, and the clock starts to go backwards, and little magical pixie dust starts to, pop out of it, and another clock starts to go backwards. So these really things start happening. You think, what's going on here? And then the television just sort of does this time warp, and it goes in and out. And then this big puff of smoke comes out of the fireplace, and it opens up. And that's when everybody realizes, this isn't what I signed up for. What is this, right? And she invites you to go with her into this dream world. So you go into this, through the fireplace, into this dream space. And there are these what we call vignettes around the room. And these are basically physical set pieces, some floating, some hanging on the walls, these giant clocks. And they all represent moments of these vignettes of her story. And you're pulled towards this first scene, which is a kitchen table, sort of floating above this cloud, and this window behind it. And Paula appears in the window, and she starts to tell you about this scene with her family around a kitchen table, when she told them her crazy dream of wanting to leave Atlanta and start an art school, and how her parents at first were a little bit trepidatious about it, but eventually totally decided to go for it with her. In fact, they put their retirement money into it, and they all went to Savannah, bought this old decrepit armory building, and spent the next year cleaning it up and turning it into what would be a school. And as the next vignette are all these, is when she needs to get accreditation to be a legitimate school, but the state authorities don't quite know what to make of an art school, or even how to accredit it. What kind of classes are they going to have? And she can't give out diplomas until she's an accredited school. So there was kind of that little bit of that drama as these clock faces that are on the wall, which also represent sort of the clock is ticking, and they gotta solve this problem. Otherwise, they're not going to have any students. They're not going to have any diplomas. And so these clocks come to life and represent the various voices for and against her idea. And she, with boundless optimism and positivity and determination, makes it through, makes it work. And then they're about 3 weeks away from opening when a major hurricane hits Savannah. And we actually have to bring a hurricane into the room. And so everybody experiences it happening all around you. And then there's the big question of what's going to be left after this hurricane. Are all their work going to have fallen apart? Well, let's put it this way. There's a happy ending. The college does open. Students do arrive on opening day. They eventually get their accreditation. They hand out their first diploma, which was to a graphic design student. And every year after that, SCAD starts to grow. And then my favorite part of the experience is Paula's story is about maybe 2/3 of the show, but the last third, really, she hands this story over to all the students over the 40 years that have come through SCAD, and you start to see their journey and what it's like to learn from professionals who are at the top of their craft and real world working environments with up-to-date equipment and tools, and that you follow these students all the way up to their moment of graduation when they are full of possibility and excitement, and then they go off into the world to begin their careers as creative professionals. That basically is the story, the journey, and once you're finished with this show, an ambassador from SCAD takes you into the next room where you can talk to people at SCAD about the experience. You can book a tour. So if you wanted to learn more, you can, and that's the full experience.
So can you tell me a little bit about some obstacles or challenges that arose as you got to work, and then how you tackled those challenges?
Yeah, well, one of them was the fact that the space was only about 1,500 square feet. So it was very tiny when you think about an attraction, and all the things that have to go into it. So we really had to think about what can we do with a small space like this in an historic building. And, just like with any major constraints like that in a creative endeavor, that's also where you find your greatest opportunities. So what we did was we thought about the space, like instead of taking people through different rooms that help you tell a story, we decided that we were going to keep them in one place and change the room around them. So SCAD Story becomes what we call like a dream space that really is an invitation into the memories of Paula Wallace, the founder of SCAD. So we found with that, challenge of a very small space, a real opportunity to kind of create this dream world.
What was SCAD and the team you were working with? What was their reaction to not only the initial concept, but even the final result? Because it's easy to imagine that this probably exceeded even their wildest expectations for a project like this.
There was definitely one of the main things that we had in our our first charrette was, a lot of clients would love to say like, oh, we want it to be the first of its kind. It's never been done before. And we actually, as we developed the ideas and kind of came up with this kind of magic box theater, like Matt was describing it, how it changes around you. So there was that kind of part was exciting for us to be able to tackle something that hadn't been done. And every time we mentioned like, we want to do this and this that way, it was something new for them. It was something exciting. So it was great to like kind of understand that was headed in the right direction.
At first, they didn't quite know what to make of it. They trusted us, right? They knew it was going to be interesting and really cool, but it took about maybe a little bit into the process before they fully realized what it was that they had on their hands here. And we would start to visualize the space in VR. We would build it out in VR, and then we gave them the opportunity to put on the headset and then be in the space. And once they actually got in the space, even in a virtual way, they finally understood it. And their first reaction was just priceless.
How would you describe the results of the project?
Her story, really, at the end of the day, is a template for every person who has a dream, especially a dream to go to school for art and design. So really what they do is they see themselves in her story, and that's really what this was all about. And I remember going through with a family who had a student who was in her first year, and she was there with her grandmother and her parents and her siblings. And at the end of it, they were all crying. And I was so nervous at first, like, why are they crying? And then they're like, the daughter, the student was like, this is what I wanted them to experience about what it's like here, right? That she really felt that this captured the essence of what it was like and why she wanted to be in a career, a creative career. And her mom and her grandmother turned and just said, thank you, we get it now. And we feel like we made the right choice. We're so happy that she's here, because the school really does prepare students. It's not just about becoming artists, right? It's about preparing them for creative careers, to be professionals, that as soon as they're done with their work, they can go right into the world and work. So that was one of the, I think, the greatest joy of any of the reactions that I had seen, was just this family in tears of just like, oh, what a relief, you know, we made the right choice. What about you, Bernard? Did you have any moments like that while you were going through it?
Yeah, I definitely did. The opening scene of the fireplace opening up, obviously, is that unexpected turn. I love standing in the front, and I always try and record the reactions when we were doing our initial kind of pass-throughs. I love that. But as soon as you get in, you know, the space and these vignettes, the one that we almost all of us will relate to is the kitchen table. Everyone that has ever been through this, you know, you've had that conversation with your parent. Like, you sit down and you're like, okay, here's what I want to do. And it's one of the most terrifying things as a kid. You know, I want to go to art school, or I want to pursue this thing, which, you know, is, you know, it's oftentimes not favored by most. So
yeah, their initial reaction is usually like along the lines of, oh, my kid's never going to make any money, they're going to be a starving artist, and, you know, what a horrible life that's going to be. But not realizing that today, you know, the creative fields, there's so many opportunities, and more each day.
But that first moment is like, catches me every time. It's the conversation I had with my parents, and fortunately, you know, they were supportive, and here I am. So
same here.
Incredible. So what do you hope that students take away from the experience, besides obviously enrolling in SCAD? What do you hope that people gain from this, from SCAD Story?
All those hurdles and challenges, like, we all face them. And it's her perseverance, it's our perseverance going through it that really kind of pushes us and gets us to where we want to be at, you know, in life.
Yeah, for me, it was, if you have a dream and you want to, and you can work hard at it, you can achieve it. And I think, and it doesn't have to be even going to art school, it can be anything. So I think that's for me, the takeaway is that combination of, you know, inspiration and perspiration is what makes the dream a reality.
And my final question is, just as working artists yourself, was there an element of Paula's story that struck you personally? Has there been any nuggets from the experience of learning Paula's story that have stayed with you?
I don't know, Bernard, if this is the same with you, but my family, I come from a family life and a background that was not in the arts at all. You know, my family was in the hardware business and things like that. So, you know, the fact that she had an idea and went for it in the creative fields and stuck with it, I found that incredibly inspirational as well. You know, that idea that, you know, if you can dream it, you can do it. So that really resonated with me. And thanks everybody out there watching our case study. Hope you enjoy it. And again, we are BRC Imagination Arts, and thank you very much.
I want people to walk through and to feel prouder about what they've done with their lives, more hope about what they can do next. That's what the human story is all about.
I'm going to work at Nickelodeon.
Verizon. Target. Apple.
Coca-Cola.
eBay.
Walt Disney Imagineering.
I would have come here if I would have known about it.
It's magical.
Part of me was like, dang, I wish I went to SCAD.
Finding your future, finding your destiny, and to make a living doing it, like that's magic.